Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well and safe in our own space at home. By the way, I am Clint Lacio, a first year BS Criminology student, and I will be reporting about the Commonwealth period. But before I proceed with the discussion of the Commonwealth period, I will just give you a brief background of Manuel L. Quezon. So, President Manuel L. Quezon's full name is Manuel Luis Quezon E. Molina. He was born on August 19, 1878 in Baler, Philippines. He was a Filipino statesman, leader of the independence movement, and the first president of Philippine Commonwealth, established under U.S. tutelage in 1935. To proceed, as early as 1902, the United States passed a Philippine bill which promised independence of Filipinos. As soon as a stable government established in the Philippines, however, more than 10 years passed and there seems to be no serious move from Americans to grant Philippine independence. Filipino politicians realized that the word soon was too ambiguous as it was not clear defined in the bill. Filipino leaders lobbied to pressure the American government to stand by her promise. In 1916, the US passed the Jones Law, which expedited the process of Philippinization and granted more autonomy to Filipinos. However, this law simply reiterated what the Philippine Bill of 1902 promised. Another decade with no tangible actions, two successive independence missions were sent to the United States. First is 1913 Osrox mission led by Sergio Osmeña and Manuel Rojas. Second is 1933, headed by Manuel L. Quezon. The latter mission would eventually result in the Tiding McDuffie Act, which provide a 10-year transition period for the Filipino under a Commonwealth government. The purpose of creating this government was the self-proclaimed American mandate of educating and training Filipinos in the science of self-government. The ultimate Filipinization, it was a transition government in which Filipino would be able to hone their administrative skill before they could be granted absolute independence. The Philippine Commonwealth started to operate in 1935 and was supposed to end in 1945. However, due to World War II, the independence was postponed and would be granted in 1946. During this period, Manuel L. Quezon advocated the social justice program to block increasing social unrest in Central Luzon. Significant legislation enacted during Commonwealth period were the following. First is the 1935 Constitution, which was promulgated for the promotion of social justice to ensure the well-being of economic security of all people, should be the concern of the state. Next is the Commonwealth Act number 178, an amendment to Rice Tenancy Act number 4045, enacted on November 13, 1936, provided for certain controls in the landlord-tenant relationships. Then the National Rice and Corn Corporation (NARIC) of 1936 established the price of rice and corn that helped the poor tenant as well as customers. At the Commonwealth Act number 461 in 1937 specified the reason for dismissal of tenant and only with approval of Tenancy Division of Department of Justice. Then the Rural Program Administration created on March 2, 1939 provided the purchase and lease of haciendas and their sale and lease of tenants. Lastly is the Commonwealth Act number 441 enacted on June 3, 1939, created the National Settlement Administration with a capital stock of 20 million pesos. Moro reaction towards the Commonwealth governance was varied. Some wanted independence with the Christian Filipinos. Some wanted separate independence. Some suggested to stay under American protection for a while, and others wanted to stay under American rule forever. Kahit papaano, ang mga Moro at Lumad ay isasama sa Philippine Commonwealth gustuhin man nila o hindi. When Manuel L. Quezon assumed the Commonwealth presidency, he identified three major priorities. First is the development of Mindanao for the sake of national economy. Second is the strengthening security in Mindanao as part of national security. Third is the advancement and integration of Moro population. Nakuha ng unang dalawang prioridad ang atensyon at lakas ni Quezon kaya kaunti lang ang natirang atensyon ni Quezon para sa ikatlong prioridad. Ang unang prioridad ay nangangahulugan na ang Mindanao ay paunlarin hindi naman para sa kapakanan ng Mindanao at ng mga naninirahan dito, ngunit para sa kapakanan ng pambansang pamahalaan at ekonomiya na nakasentro sa Maynila. The Quezon administration perceived two major threats to the national security for second priority. The existence of many non-Christian population in Mindanao and Sulu, considered as threat because the non-Christian tribes were perceived as disloyal to the Philippine government. Next, the existence of growing colony of Japanese agriculturists and entrepreneur in Davao, considered as bothersome because Japanese expansionism in Asia was common knowledge as early as the late 1920s. Upang matugunan ang mga banta na ito, hinikayat ng pamahalaan ng malaking bilang ng Kristiyanong katutubo mula sa Luzon at Visayas upang manirahan sa Mindanao at Sulu. Nalampasan ang migration noong panahon ng Amerikano at sa gayon, nag-ambag upang gawing mas malala ang sitwasyon ng Mindanao. The Commonwealth government exerted some effort of third priority. However, they seemed to do more harm than help. Quezon thought integration would be achieved by applying the same rule to Christian and non-Christian tribes. He never realized that he had collided with cultural institutions of Lumads and Moros. So the Quezon administration abolished various laws, such as the Bureau of Non-Christian Tribes abolished in January 1937, which was then the only government agency that tried to meet the special needs of non-Christians administratively. Moro Board, which was established to settle some religious disputes according to traditional laws. Quezon justified that its abolition would force Moro to take their case to regular courts of justice. Quezon would end official recognition of the civil titles held by Moro and valued by them as expressive of their traditional social system. Hindi napagtanto ni Quezon na binasura niya ang mga tradisyonal na sistema ng pamahalaan ng mga Moro at gumagana ng maayos at pinakaangkop sa lokal na kultura. Hindi rin niya napagtanto na siya ang sumira sa konsepto ng pamumuno ng mga Moro sa pagitan ng pagpapalit ng tradisyonal na pinuno sa mga pinapasahod na opisyal. While the Commonwealth government provided the Christian Filipino leaders learning opportunities, the Moro and Lumads felt excluded. Quezon's policy towards Mindanao, though understandable, to strengthening a central government, were insensitive to the needs of the Filipino of Mindanao. The Quezon administration prepared the Filipinos to recognize one government, but the uniform application of policies overlooked the diversity of its people. By trampling on some long-held tradition instead of adapting them to become functional instrument of the new government, Quezon's policy became a source of insecurity for the Moros and Lumads. Kung may mga konsultasyon sa iba't ibang grupo, kung saan ang mga opinyon ng mga tao ay isinasaalang-alang bago ang isang sentralisadong pamahalaan, malamang walang problema na nagdudulot ng rebellion. Secessionism ay at armadong tunggalian. And that would be all for my report. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. Mabuhay!